Salute to you all, the brave never fall. Since when did it become okay for people to tell you that you don't have the right to actually put yourself first every day with some of the decisions that you make, with the interactions you have with other people, with the way you go about your everyday life as far as work goes, school goals, and relationships with family members that are close, that are estranged, anything you can think of. Since when did it become okay for people, regardless if they're inside of your circle or outside of your circle, if you want to go to school one day and decide you don't want to talk to anybody because that's your choice, since when did it become okay for people to say to you, no, you should be talking? If you want to go to work the next day and talk to everybody and say hello and tell them, hey, I like your shirt, and how was your weekend? If you choose to do that and everyone says, why are you talking so much? What gives them the right to say that to you? What gives them the right to say, why are you washing your car in the rain? Or why are you trying to go for a run at 3 o'clock in the morning? Or anything you can think of. If it's your life, why are people telling you how you should prioritize your time? It's okay to prioritize your own needs. It's okay. It's okay to prioritize your own needs. If you need space, that's your right. If you need more people in your life and you just want to be more social, and so you go out more than some of the people who are in your family or your circle of friends or your work buddies, that's your right. You're prioritizing things that are going to make your life better. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people prioritize their lives to the point where they need to do things that aren't so okay. But it's still your right to do it. You can't make people do things. One of the things I've had to learn over time is to accept that people are going to do whatever they want to do. And that's their right. If somebody doesn't want to talk to you, they don't have to talk to you. You can ask them a question, they have a right not to answer. They have that right. But you also have the right to never talk to that person again. You have a right to maybe be patient and come back again later with the same question. You have a right to adjust to things that are around you. I feel like my prioritizing of my time is filled with moments throughout the day where I do allow time for people to enter my zone, basically. Because I think prioritizing gets confused with not wanting to be bothered, or they feel like they're entering your bubble, your own private space. And especially the more comfortable you get in your own skin and you don't need so many people around you, and you keep a small circle of friends around you because you realize that small circle is very important to you. You don't want too many distractions. You're trying to stay focused on what you're doing. And you have the people who empower you and enlighten you and are doing the same things you are to a certain extent. They're teaching you, and you look up to these people, and they're adding just invaluable value to your life. People outside of that circle may tend to think that you're stuck up. You got your nose in the air. You don't want to be bothered. You're trying to be something you're not. You're trying to pretend you're something you're not. And then in reality, what's that called? That's called judging somebody. Because unless you are 100% sure that's exactly what that person is doing, you know them so well that you know them almost as equally as they know themselves, which is impossible, by the way. But let's just say you got very close to knowing that person as close as they know themselves. Does that still give you the right to say that they don't have the right to prioritize their time in any which way that they want, with whoever they want? It's not okay to tell people you should be doing something else if somebody is wanting to do a certain thing. It's just not okay to do that. And it's a very immature trait in a way, because it's a bit ignorant. Anybody who is alive and breathing and appreciates their time and wants to get the most out of each day, you know both how valuable time is in that day, but you also understand that you have plenty of time to interact with plenty of people. But you don't have to do that at the expense of your own prioritized goals for that day. If somebody wants to hang out with you, if somebody wants to talk to you, If there's something you're not obligated to do, you don't have to do it. You have to fill out in your brain what is the priority of the day, what things have to be done that day. And if they don't get done, the only person you can blame is yourself. You can't blame the people who are trying to pull you out of your goal mindset for the day, out of your purpose for that day. It's not cool to do that. And this is a topic for today because one of the things I get asked a lot is, how do you manage to get all this stuff done throughout the day? And I always tell them I block everyone out that's not in the priority. You can't have an endless list of priorities in one day. It doesn't work that way. You need about, I would say, no more than 4. I try to stick it to maybe 3, sometimes 2. 2 things I'm going to do today that are high on the priority list. And that's not the obligations. Obligations you can't get around. I have to go to work. Of course, that's a priority. I have to communicate with certain people throughout the day. That's a priority. We're talking about the stuff you don't have to do. That's the list that we're drifting into. The list that we're drifting into is the one that it's a list you're making for yourself. You're prioritizing your own needs, your own goals for that day. Things that are going to add value to your life. And that most likely excludes a lot of people, a lot of places, and a lot of things. And unless you are walking around with a sign that says, these are my priorities for the day, it's up to other people to kind of interact with you, and they don't always know. And to be fair, they don't know what your priorities are. So you can choose to tell them, or you can just be blatantly honest and assertive about what you're doing that day. As far as, hey, how you doing? Can't do it today. That's it. I think a lot of people, because I used to be one of these people, I would have set goals for the day. And I'm like, I'm going to prioritize everything I'm going to do today, and I'm going to get this stuff done. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to knock all this out. And before I can even get to 2 p.m., I realize I don't have enough time to do all this stuff because I've been running around fixing everybody else's problems, prioritizing other people's priorities. And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, again, you have room to help certain people, but you have to be conscious of the fact that you still have your own priorities. It's okay to help people, but it can get excessive. And I mentally and physically wore myself out daily for years, thinking that, I'll get to my priorities when I get to them, because helping this person is much more important. The joy that I saw on their faces for helping them out meant more to me than my priorities. There does come a time when that's a detriment to your life. You'd be guilty of sabotaging your own priorities because you can't help everyone. That door will never close. There's no way you're going to ever walk through a door and then say, hey, look, I finally helped everyone that I'm possibly going to help today or this year. I'm moving on to my own priorities now. It doesn't work that way. Somebody's always going to need help. Somebody's always going to be asking for your time. Even when you're the loneliest you've ever been and you're deep in a depression, just think about it. How often do people still want to be in your bubble? You just don't want them there because you're in a dark place. But there's people still trying to get into your life. That will always be the case. Unless you live on an island by yourself with no priorities at all and you like it that way. If you live in modern day society, it's impossible to go a day without somebody wanting something from you, regardless if it's obligated or it's your own time and your own priorities. Just make sure you stay on your path. And you remember that you have to be centered on your path. It's okay for your path to wind because you're following it. A lot of times we can't dictate what the path is. The path is going to wind. It's going to sometimes go back, it seems like, but it's never going fully back to where you started. It'll just make a little bit of a U-turn, and then you have to just follow it. A lot of times you can take that path and say, look, I don't like going back this far. Let me cut this path off and I'll reconnect it somewhere else and we'll start a new path. That's perfectly fine too. Those are priorities. You're doing that for yourself. The problem is when you're looking on other people's paths and they're waving at you. They're not even walking. They're just standing there or sitting there and they're waving you over and you say, hey, what's going on? Hey, can you join me for a little bit? You're like, okay, sure. Then the next thing you know, you look back, you can't find your path. It's gone. So what do you have to do? You have to tell that person goodbye. Now you got to go back and find your path. Look how much further you could have went on your path that day had you just stayed on it. And maybe just say, hey, look, I'm going to stay with you for a little bit until, I can't see my path starts to get out of my eyesight. I'm going to have to hop back on my path. I'm sorry. That's prioritizing your needs. It's very simple. I had to learn that the hard way. And it's not a good feeling to know when you go to bed at night, you helped all these people, but you did nothing for yourself. And now you're starting to give yourself anxiety because you're getting behind on things. And not only are you getting behind on things, you're tired. You're mentally drained. You don't even, when it's time for you to get to the priorities that you put in place for yourself, you don't even have the energy and the mental focus to even complete the task that you put in front of yourself because you were too busy completing the task of everyone else at 100% level. You're completing other people's priorities at 100% level. Now, when it's time for you to get to your level, you're at 25, 30, 40%. Best. Not good enough. That's not good enough. You can help someone at 100%. Absolutely. But you need to make sure you're at 100% of your priorities as well. And no matter how you figure that out, because everybody's different, everybody's schedule is different, who you know is different, that's for you to figure out. But I can tell you this, that needs to be a priority for your priorities. You need to go into those priorities knowing that there's a huge chance that a lot of those priorities that you have for yourself as needs aren't going to get fulfilled. And a lot of times it's your doing. We're talking about other people here, but you can easily sabotage yourself by being sidetracked with things that aren't in the priority. I always look at it like this. My priorities, they equal the needs. Those needs are urgent. They need to be done as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible, which is why I want to give myself 2 or 3 a day. Because if I'm going to go that hard on something, if I'm going to go 100% on a priority that's a need and is urgent, I'm going to need everything that I have to complete it. I don't need any distractions from other people. You're not abandoning these people. You're not abandoning yourself. What you're saying is that I need to focus on this one thing because it's very important to me and it's urgent. It's a need that I must have right now for myself. And if I don't get it, then I'm devaluing myself. I'm telling myself these people and these things and these places are better than me because I'm prioritizing them over my own needs. The key to a healthy life is that your needs need to be met as well. Not only by other people, but by yourself. If you don't meet the needs of yourself, there's no way anybody else can. If you don't prioritize what's best in your life and do it urgently and assertively, you're going to fall back every time. You're going to fall back. That path is going to make a U-turn. And you're going to be wondering what happened to all the progress that I made. I'm looking at the same scenery again. It's just in a different season. It's in a different year. But it's the same scenery over and over and over again. In order to make progress, you have to prioritize. You go 100% and you keep moving forward. It's okay to jump off the path and help someone. I do it all the time. I do it multiple times a day. But I never get it to the point where it's going to be a detriment. I did that. I lived that. And I was literally hospitalized for it. I got myself to such a stress level that my body shut down on me. And it was a scary time. And the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. It was just a complete mental and physical breakdown. I was putting the world on my shoulders unnecessarily, helping all these people. And when I got out of the hospital, I still didn't learn my lesson. I would continue once a year to have these crashes. And it took me a long time to figure out what that was. And what it was is that I wasn't meeting my own physical needs, my own mental needs, my own spiritual needs, and emotional needs. I wasn't meeting any of those, not even close. I was too busy feeling those feelings through other people. Being an empath, which I am, any empath, if you're hearing this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You feel like, oh, I feel great because I helped this person. It feels like an emotional need until you realize that was not your emotional need. It was theirs. It felt good to help them with their emotional need. But you didn't do anything for yourself other than you gained some emotional need in there for yourself. It felt great. But emotionally, you had a bigger gap to fill that day. You had more room for that need to grow. And you just abandoned it. You gave it to someone else. And there's nothing wrong with giving pieces of yourself to someone. But you have to also fill it back up. It's like driving a car. You eventually have to get gas. So it's those things. Like when I help somebody, I don't think, okay, I'm done for the day. When I help somebody now, I jump back on the bike and I keep going. And I say, okay, now it's my turn. I help them. Now I got to help myself. I have room in here now. And then you feel even more rewarded because not only did you help somebody out that day, or you did things that help somebody else with their priorities and needs, but you still have time and room to do it for yourself. So you just feel like it's a complete day. And I do it across the board. I do it with physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual every single day. I like to go to bed with those meters full, meaning I fulfill my priorities and my needs for that day for each one of those. Because they're all urgent, they're all needs, and they're all priorities. And they all give me purpose. Because when I wake up, I have a purpose every single day. Every day I have a purpose. I wake up and I know that's my purpose. My purpose is to make sure that I function properly. Because if I can't, then how am I supposed to help anyone else? If I'm having emotional and spiritual breakdowns and I can't function, then I'm no good to anyone. And I'm definitely not good to myself. You need to be the example for other people to see how to do that in their own lives. Because it's not hard. It's not even something you need to write down. It's a discipline thing. And I've said this in almost every single podcast. I always go back to self-love, valuing yourself, and discipline. Self-discipline is the key to all this. None of this works if you're undisciplined. It just will not work. You have to be so disciplined by this that it's burned into your brain. And right when you think you've made it and you've leveled out and you're all balanced, you start over again. You start over like you don't know any of this stuff. And you just relearn it and you relearn it. And eventually you don't even think about it. I don't think about this stuff when I wake up. I have to remind myself to tell people, this is what I do to get through the day. When somebody comes to me for help, it's hard for me to even explain how I do this. Which is why these podcasts are so important, because I can remind myself in these podcasts. It is definitely valuable for anyone, because these are not things that I'm just making up. These are things that are stuff that I live through. I am a living proof that this stuff works. It's just a mindset. It's just challenging your mind to think about things differently and pushing yourself harder than you give yourself credit for. Being assertive with your priorities. Don't allow other people to sabotage your day. Regardless if they know that they're doing it or not. It's your time. It's your day. You do what you have to do to get through the day. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. They'll all fall into place. Trust me, those people aren't going anywhere. And if they're a stranger, you'll never meet them again. Make the right decisions throughout the day. Remember your priorities with each decision that you make. Is it fitting into that priority? Is it going to help your needs? Is it going to help you stay balanced and disciplined? Or are you veering off the path? Take a look around you. Are you still on the path? Look forward. Where is it going? It's a simple concept that works. I'm going to say it one more time. It's okay to prioritize your own needs. It's your life. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't resent yourself because you feel a little selfish because you have to tell some people no, or you can't go to this party, or you need a day off from school just to rethink things. Don't feel bad about stuff that you feel like your mind and your body needs. When it gets excessive, your body will tell you, okay, you're falling off. You're going a little too far with it. Your body will adjust to it, and that's where the discipline comes in. But you won't know until you push yourself. Only when you push yourself will you finally know when the body and the mind will come together and get you through this. But you won't know until you do it. Put yourself first. The rest will fall into place. If no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall.